Live from clickorlando.com, this is News 6 at 5:30. This is a News 6 Plus takeover. Here now is Solutionaries.
Today, we are in Hannibal Square in beautiful Winter Park, Florida, and we are tackling another big topic, affordable housing. Now, I know what you're thinking. When you think affordable housing, you do not think Winter Park, Florida. But Hannibal Square is one of many community land trusts in the state, and we're going to tell you more about that a little bit later. But affordable housing is a crisis, really, that affects people in almost every state and cities big and small. To get to the heart of the matter, we pulled together a focus group, normal people who wanted to share their stories about trying to find and keep affordable housing.
Hi, I'm Robin Sakovich. I am currently living in income-restricted housing.
My name is Ethan Hooper, and I teach children who struggle with affordable housing.
My name is Frank Torres, and I'm worried that the Orlando housing market is not sustainable.
Hi, my name is Bathsheba Collingwood. I am a mother of 3 that resides in a hotel.
My name is Nadia Giacino, and I can barely pay rent.
My name is Ryan Mullins, and I had no choice but to pay a huge rent increase.
And this is a question for the group. Do you guys feel that there is a stigma attached to looking for affordable housing? Frank said absolutely yes.
Absolutely. That's because people still equate affordable housing with being poor. Yeah. A lot of people that haven't had to deal with the housing problems that we're dealing with in Central Florida right now, they hear affordable housing and their mind jumps out to this vision of dilapidated buildings and poorly maintained properties. They don't know that affordable housing involves, housing for teachers and police officers, and I think that's one of the biggest obstacles today.
Affordability means normal people that work at the theme parks, that work at the warehouses around here that we have a ton of, need a place to live. I mean, we can't afford, $1,600-$1,800 rent.
I make decent money where I'm able to pay my rent, but there are times that I'm like, okay, how am I going to pay? Like, I have to figure out and move stuff around. I'm to the point, like, rent is first, then my light. Couldn't care less if the cell phone gets cut off or not.
Is it stressful?
It is very stressful. It is very, very stressful because I'm a mom. And I want what's best for him and for my kids, so I'm going to do whatever. If that means eating ramen for the rest of my life, then I've done it. Then yeah, it's hard. It is very, very hard, and it's stressful, and it causes unnecessary anxiety.
What? My anxiety level is up to here.
Unnecessary.
Having panic attacks.
Yep.
Like no other, to where I have to literally tell my kids, let me get a moment, because mommy's on the inside. I'm screaming, because I'm trying to figure things out. My mind is racing on my next move and how we're going to eat.
We hear a lot of talk about affordable housing, but do you guys feel like it is a real priority?
It should be.
It should be. It really should be.
It's not a priority.
It is not. No one's making it a priority.
Yeah.
Like they say it should be. It's if they think that there's a lot of homeless people out there right now, we have a lot out there right now, it can get so much worse. By affordable housing, we don't mean we don't need all $400,000 and $500,000 houses. Like, we need regular houses for regular people with, everyday jobs.
So we need less stainless steel kitchens, less granite countertops.
I don't even have that.
Less wood floors. We need linoleum and regular just white appliances and a rug.
To make it more affordable.
And this is what we need. We don't need luxury. We need affordability, and just to get people in these places and
off the streets.
I can't do this.
Thank you so much to everyone in our focus group. You can watch the focus group's full 1-hour conversation by logging on to clickorlando.com/solutionaries. Well, in many areas, affordable housing is a crisis, and not every problem can be easily solved. While doing research on this topic, we came across a program for future homeowners that many people have never heard of. It won't be the key to unlocking the opportunity of home ownership for everyone, but for some, it is the helping hand they so desperately need. Solutionaries correspondent Nadine Yanez has the story.
I think everybody realizes there's a huge issue with housing in Central Florida at this time. But really the key here is home ownership. I think that if we're going to help families to actually build wealth and to gain some equity, we really need to provide opportunities to own a home. That's the American dream. So Hannibal Square is 2 blocks from Park Avenue. And Park Avenue is one of the most exclusive boutique and high-end restaurant-driven areas of the country. Everybody knows about Park Avenue and Winter Park.
The Hannibal Square neighborhood has always been unique, both because of its location and its rich historical past.
Historically African-American community that was instrumental in Winter Park actually becoming a city because there weren't enough white property owners to sign a petition to the state. They needed to have 100 signatures and they had like 40 something. But there were 60 some odd African American property owners who bought small plots of land and built small homes for their families.
But that past can't protect it from a modern problem. Pressure from development and rising costs.
As you can see, on the left side of the street are huge homes that were built in the past few years. And then if you look on the right side of the street are some of the more, and even this one, the very small one in the corner, these are more modest homes that were part of the original neighborhood.
Today, you'll find these small plots being sold by Sotheby's just feet away from traditional working-class bungalows.
Yeah, working-class neighborhood. I think that's a good word. That's a good phrase.
But in 2004, neighbors and the city set up something called a Community Land Trust to protect affordability and promote home ownership.
Those residents were really concerned in the late 1990s, early 2000s that, you know, the integrity of the neighborhood was changing, and they were basically pushing out the folks who historically lived in that neighborhood. My name is Camille Reynolds Lewis. I am the Executive Director for Hannibal Square Community Land Trust. I think the interest is just that we provide an option for housing, for home ownership, in price ranges that are just not really available right now for families.
And here's how it works. The trust, which is a nonprofit, acquires land either by donation or purchase with grants, and then builds a home on the land. When built, the home is then ready to sell to a qualified buyer, but those buyers are only paying for the building. The land, you see, stays in the trust. So if a typical home in the area is selling for $300,000, but the land value is $100,000, the new buyer only has to qualify for a $200,000 loan. The Hannibal Square Land Trust, designed for hardworking families making 80% of the median income, which here in the hot real estate market of Orlando is only $61,000 for a family of 4.
This is an opportunity for people who are perpetually on the rent rolls. Like you've been renting and then the rent goes up and the rent goes up and you move and you take your family to another place to rent and you take your family to another place to rent and you can never seem to get stability or build any income. So this is an option for those families. This is Israel Simpson Court. After the only 2 black representatives on the city council, which served in the late 1880s, early 1890s.
The Land Trust has been able to acquire 21 homes in the Hannibal Square neighborhood.
All of these homes in this cul-de-sac are the first homes that were built by the Community Land Trust.
And the homes aren't what you may think affordable housing looks like.
You wouldn't think that affordable housing would look like this.
Yeah, and you should, right?
Kent Kirsten enjoys his front porch and the safe, walkable neighborhood. And on a teacher's salary,
if you go 5 blocks, you hit Park Avenue.
Could never imagine living just blocks from prestigious Park Ave.
It was, you know, there was a lot, like again, this is a very affordable home, and it was still living here by myself, you know, at a time when I didn't have any roommates or anything, you know, it was still a hearty chunk of the paycheck was paying the mortgage.
Stay with us as we take a closer look at community land trusts and other solutions for affordable housing in Florida.
The Community Land Trust, a solution, not only growing in Orlando, but in Jacksonville too.
I want to give a shout out to Jacksonville that's actually amended their disposition statute for their surplus lands to give a community land trust, which we're forming now.
And across the nation in hot real estate markets like Houston.
Houston is huge. The Houston Community Land Trust is now 3 years old. About a month and a half ago, they just got a huge investment by their municipality of about $58 million to go ahead and actually do between 200 and 300 units in the next 2 years. So for them, they're like really sort of ramping up and going.
And it's been proven successful in Vermont.
Michael Monty, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Champlain Housing Trust.
The largest of the 300 land trusts in the United States.
I think we have had great support locally. The city of Burlington, we have great support amongst the other municipalities in the region. The state of Vermont also has been very supportive.
Yeah, do you feel like this is a movement that's growing? Like, are you feeling like we're going to get more CLTs come in?
I think in the future, personally, that there's a lot more potential federal resources for this, and that's what's important. That's the value. But also, localities, municipalities, and states are saying, let's do it this way, and this is a smarter way of doing it. So we see more of that growth, absolutely.
But the Community Land Trust is not for everybody.
If you want to be able to sell your home for the highest dollar, that's a disadvantage.
Because the goal is to keep the homes affordable forever, meaning if you plan to sell, there is a limit on the equity you can make.
I planted the vines and they just exploded, right? And
Kent is married now. He has a couple of kids and they're starting to outgrow the home.
Now it's a project.
If he sells, the next buyer will retain the same benefits, and the amount of profit Kent takes away will be capped at a certain percent. Think of it like rent control, but for home ownership.
It was weird to even think of it because I had never heard of any sort of program that would own the land, but you would own the home. So I'm like, well, is it mobile? Is it like, are you renting a lot? Like, how does that work? But then when I delved into the purpose, it made more sense, and I'm on board with that. When the purpose is to create opportunities for other families, then that's something that I can get on board with.
But even with the limited equity in a land trust home, it gets her in the game.
I don't know that it'll be super different, like the feeling of it all, to have my own home. I just think I would just like to see like the different account, to see like that escrow looking different, to see the background of it.
All with the goal of giving more hardworking families a home that's attainable.
I think land trusts are not going away. Actually, I think land trusts are going to be more prolific across the country because it's an option that helps to kind of stabilize things in a very volatile housing market right now.
Nadine, that was great reporting. You know, a lot of people know Hannibal Square, but they don't necessarily know the history of Hannibal Square. I do have a lot of questions, though, a couple of questions about CLTs. Are people allowed to upgrade their properties?
This is a great question because you would want to maybe add a porch, maybe a pool. In a CLT, you're actually going to need to get approval for it, and most likely you won't be approved to making any huge additions to the house. You don't want to raise the value in the house. One, because you're not going to be able to pull the equity out on that, but two, you want to keep that house affordable for as long as possible.
And what about homeowners insurance? Does it work pretty much the same way?
Exactly the same way, except you're not insuring the land. The CLTs are responsible for the land, so they cover that. And as the homeowner, you're only getting insurance for the house, the mortgage that you have.
I know there's a wait list. How long are people typically on that wait list? I know a lot of people want to know that.
Well, here in Hannibal Square alone, there was a wait list of about 100, and then when we did a story for News 6, it actually went to almost 200. We called, and apparently that wait list is now 2 to 3 years before anyone can actually get in that home, and that's the reason why Hannibal Square is trying to expand as much as they are.
All right. Nadine Yanez, thank you. Great reporting. And one other quick fact about community land trusts, although Vermont has the largest one in the country, Florida has the most of any state. Now, there never seems to be a shortage of problems, of course, but solutions aren't always easy to come by. But this is a show focused on solutions. Our focus group shared the difficulties they've had finding and keeping affordable housing. So now it's time to turn to our solutionaries. Nadine Yanez and I recently discussed the affordable housing crisis with local experts from a variety of backgrounds. They hear real-world problems and offer real-world solutions. We took some questions from the panelists, and I'm going to start with those questions. Her name is Robin. She works for a theme park. She moved to Central Florida from Michigan and said she was on a wait list for a year and a half to find basically an apartment that she could afford. She wants to know, why aren't there more properties for people who don't make above a certain threshold? And Jamie, I think I'm going to start with you on that one. Can you answer that for us?
Sure, absolutely. We have an inadequate supply of affordable housing. There's a number of reasons for that. You mentioned that she works at a theme park. Well, you've got the Reedy Creek Improvement District there that is actually the government in charge of the theme parks. So when it was time for a comprehensive plan for that area of the state, they didn't have to do one. So there's no housing element requirement there. And so you've got massive amounts of employment being generated, no responsibility to provide affordable housing. It just falls on the community, Osceola, Orlando, wherever those employees are living. And part of the problem, especially in the Orlando area, is there are other tools that could be used and are not being used. You have large-scale developments being built in Orlando with no inclusionary housing requirement to say, hey, you're building 20 acres here, building a little new town here. How about some affordable housing? You don't have any law, no inclusionary housing law in your area that requires that.
If I could just add to that real quick, Jamie. So it's not a bizarre approach. I mean, remember, Central Florida is home to the Space Coast. And when the Space Coast was first developing, housing was built specifically for workers. I mean, so this concept of also complementing an economy with housing is not out of the blue. It's actually, I think, part of the American tradition to make sure that workers have a place to live. But I'll add to Jamie's point, a lot of this is local policy, but the state needs to stop preempting it because the state will get involved and try to eliminate linkage fees. The state will get involved and make it harder to pay workers a wage they can survive on. And so I do think the state plays a role in almost, stepping out of the way, if you will, yes. And not taking away home rule and control.
Why don't we have more Habitat for Humanity houses that are offering the same level mortgages that CLTs are?
So for Habitat for Humanity, we have to go raise the money to afford to build the home. And currently, I mean, we're building and selling about 30 homes per year, which is fantastic. But you've heard there is this extreme shortage. So for us, it is more private philanthropy, and it is lower cost of land. Yes, there is a lot of land, but one, it is expensive. Two, there's a lot of environmental issues on much of the land that is available here in Central Florida, which makes it very expensive to do your horizontal infrastructure work. What type of things do you need to even do to prep the land to build the home? That just, you keep hearing ka-ching, 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 which then continues to make the home less affordable. So for us, it is absolutely raising the money and finding landowners who will be willing to sell to Habitat.
Thank you to our solutionaries for their time and expertise. As you can see, it is a complex topic and the solutions are multi-layered. Like our focus group, you can see our full conversation with our solutionaries by logging on to clickorlando.com/solutionaries. I'm Louis Bolden. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back soon with another episode of Solutionaries. Take care. And of course, you can watch Solutionaries anytime on the News 6 Plus app.